Hello and welcome to the ADEA CCI Change and Innovation Dental Education special webinar on Change is Still Here. This is for all the ADEA CCI liaisons who are unable to participate in the meeting at the annual session. And I'll be sharing the same presentation. It's around 20 minutes. And it'll go through the accomplishments of the ADEA CCI that we've made so far, what is coming up next, and also something about the summer meeting, which will be a really new experience for all of us. I'm hoping that you all will sign up to participate. If you have any questions, you can just talk. Is that right? Could I just talk? Yeah. If you have any questions, just feel free to jump in, and or you can go to the chat box that should be at the bottom of your GoToMeeting, whatever you want to call it. It should be there, and just type in your message for me. I see we have Emily and Kumin Wang on the phone right now, so welcome. Okay, so first we'll go through ADEA CCI 2.0, the first 9 months. Is this registration for the summer meeting open? Yes, it is. Registration opened last week. You should have gotten an email yesterday as a reminder. Oh, okay. Hey, Emily, how are you? The registration opened last week. You should have got a reminder, Kumin. And if you didn't get a reminder, Kumin, email me and let me make sure you're on the mailing list. And hi, Emily. I'm just going through the presentation that we did at annual session for some of those liaisons who could not participate. And so first I wanted to go through the first 9 months of the program and share with you some of the accomplishments that we have. And so we began our first, really our second paper was published in June 2017, Changes Here, and that's when we launched the ADEA CCI 2.0 in Baltimore. In July 2017, we released the first tool number 1. In September 2017, we created a ADEA CCI knowledge team. And this knowledge team will focus on evaluation. So they are the ADEA CCI liaisons working as a team to evaluate the program itself. And they'll also be creating tools and then evaluating the outcomes of those tools. In October, we had 12 schools that completed tool number 1. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that and what that means for our program. In November, we published our third paper, Person-Centered Care in the JDE, and we also had a webinar, which if you go to our eLearn website, you can still view at your own time. And these were the papers that we put out. One was a guest editorial and the perspectives paper, and we want to thank Drs. Walji, Karen Bucks, and Spielman for putting that person-centered care paper together. In January, we released a second tool, which was sort of a much shorter version, different than tool number 1. And so we're trying different formats. It was 3 questions sent in a survey, and we're still analyzing those tools. But we did get 40 different schools to respond, so we're really excited about that. And then last month in March, we had our 4th paper on social determinants of health from the Journal of Dental Education, and we also had a webinar for that just about 2 weeks ago, which was very successful. And we want to thank Tamana Terari from Colorado for writing our guest editorial, and we want to thank Emily Sabato and Kim Finessi from Rutgers, who led this paper. They did the paper with Jessica Owens at LSU, and they worked with a interprofessional team of a nurse and I think it's social work and medicine at Rutgers. And that was a fantastic paper. We got a lot of positive feedback about it. And the webinar also is still posted. You'll be able to look at that at any time on our eLearn website. So this was a lot to do in just 9 months. When you think about it, we have 4 or 5 papers now. None of them would have existed without ADEA CCI 2.0. And so we're giving opportunities for liaisons to publish. And it's also planting seeds. A lot of the topics we're talking about, like person-centered care, social determinants of health, not all the schools are really ready to embrace yet. And if you look in the literature in dentistry, there are no articles on social determinants of health. There are no articles on person-centered care. And people in our community, when they want to find information, they typically go to the JDE or JADA. These topics have been reviewed quite regularly in medical journals and nursing journals, but not in dentistry. And so these papers are really groundbreaking for us. It's the first time that we have them in dental education. And over time, in a year or 2 years or 5 years from now, when these topics that we're ahead of the curve on start getting more interest and people go to the journals and they go to the literature, they'll find them. And so we're planting seeds for the future. We're putting evidence-based information out there for folks to discover and to share and to talk about. And over time, I think these papers will gain in importance. So this is really a big step for us. And just going back, so I mentioned we created a knowledge team, and that are 4 of our liaisons: Marsha Dittmeyer for UNLV, Katie Din from LECOM, Rosanna Graham from Columbia, and Sing Chi Bergman from the University of British Columbia in Canada. And so, as I mentioned, they are evaluating the responses to the tools, and they'll be helping creating new tools as they've created the person-centered care tool. And they sent a survey out to see how many schools have actually been completing the CCI work, who has definitely put a team together, which teams are meeting, and how many folks have completed tool number 1. And so this is what they found. They found that 32 out of the 70 schools formed a group. Out of those 30, another 32, another 30 have actually met and have begun conversations. And 19 have started the tool. 12 have actually completed it. And so I want to talk about what that means for us moving forward. First, we're going to take a look at the diffusion of innovation. And so you have to understand that when we had shared that 12 schools had finished the tool out of approximately 70, there was some disappointment in the air and a question as to why were there only 12 schools. And so instead of accepting that data verbatim, we went into the research and we read the literature on innovation, and we found that the diffusion of innovation very clearly explains this response. As you can see to the left, 2.5% of people are innovators. Those are the folks that are already doing innovation, are very comfortable with that. Another 13.5% are early adopters, and so they're eager to begin that work, and they have teams and ready to jump into a different mindset. And then there's the big middle group, the majority. There's early majority and late majority. And that's around 68% of folks. And so that's the group we're really focused on next. They're the ones who do want to participate, but need a little bit more information, a little bit more support, maybe a little bit more time. And then 16% are considered the laggards. Often laggards are described as the lazy people, or folks who just don't really have a strong belief in the new process, and this one would be the learning community. But actually, laggards can be quite smart. Often they're sitting back, waiting to see if this is worth joining. They're also trying to find resources, which they may not always have at their schools. They may come from schools that don't have the support right now. And so they are equally important as all the other groups. And so if you really crunch the numbers, you apply these percentages to the 70 schools that can participate, what this shows us is that around 12 schools should have completed the tool on time. And that's exactly what we have. And so for now, we can safely say that we're moving in the right direction. This is what you would expect with a new tool and a new program. And the goal of ADEA CCI now is to move into that purple section, those early majority. And that would be another 24 schools. And so between now and the meeting in June, we're hoping to get 24 additional schools to complete the CCI tool number 1. At the annual session, at least half a dozen schools came up to me and said they wanted to be able to work on it again based on this information. And so I'll be sending an email out in about a week to re-release that tool and hope we can get 24 more schools on board, because that would give us over 50% of the schools completed the first tool and are ready to move forward in the program. So that's pretty exciting. So the first thing I just want to say is really thank you to everyone here and everyone's participated in the program. This is something that we've not done before. And if you were at the annual session, if you were at the ADEA CCI summer meeting last year, you could see there were a number of folks who felt there wasn't enough information moving forward, that description was a little vague, or how to put a team together was a little open-ended. That was intentional. The idea was we did not want to give you a prescription. We wanted you to kind of go out and kind of deal with ambiguity, which is the first step of moving into an innovative mindset, is being able to deal with ambiguity and to make progress within ambiguity. And so we're glad that these 12 schools made some progress, and now we're going to work on the next bunch. But thank you for everyone that was involved. And I'm just highlighting those 12 schools who we've been talking to and have been making significant movement on the ADEA CCI program. So thank you to them. Great. So let's just remind ourselves about the work that we're doing, why it's important, and what we're really trying to achieve. And so one thing in particular is that members will say to me, what's my role? Is my role to change dental education? Is my team's role to make all these changes at my school? Because we're just 3 people, or we don't have a lot of time, or we don't have resources, or we don't feel supported. How can we do this? What's ADEA going to be doing for us? Or what's the right way forward? And we just want to go back to remind folks of some of the basic belief systems of the ADEA CCI, and that is we have faith in you. That we believe that every dental school can pave their own road towards the future. As you know, no 2 dental schools are alike. We have a lot in common, but we're all very different in how we perceive ourselves, how our students decide which schools to go to based on our curriculum, the culture of our faculty and our students, the neighborhoods our schools are located in, the backgrounds of our patients. We're all very unique. And we believe that there is no one way forward, that each dental school will really design their own path forward. And the role of ADEA CCI through ADEA is to provide you resources, and with those resources, add to them some tools or worksheets, so that more than just reading the paper by yourself, you can get a group together, and together you can read these papers. And it's through that interaction that new ideas will emerge. And so we do have 3 destinations that we do hold true, and that is that we believe that healthcare will be delivered in a person-centered model, and that overall health will really be where dentistry belongs. We believe that students need to be future ready, and that means they need to be critical thinkers, expert communicators, and lifelong learners, so that no matter what changes happen over time in their 50 years they'll be practicing, they don't need to go back to school, but instead they'll be keeping up on data, they'll be keeping up on new information, and they'll have the skill set to easily adjust or adapt to changes that happen. Instead of training students just for the boards or just to graduate in today's world, we want to give them the mindset and the skills to be adaptable. And last, that learning should happen in a transformational environment. That dental school isn't the only place learning happens, and where else can students learn? And that learning shouldn't just be adding to what they know, but actually giving them the opportunity to have a paradigm shift of what healthcare could be. And again, as I said, this is not something you can do alone. Your role is not to turn your school into a person-centered care clinic. Your role is not to have a toolbox that will teach every student to be future ready. Your role is to be influencers. The role of the ADEA CCI Liaison is to share the information that ADEA shares with you. And the learning community that we're trying to create, that work group, that's where the sharing begins, is that the liaisons invite other folks at their school to come to a session. You talk about a paper, you try to answer the questions together, and then from there, you send that information back to ADEA, and that information then comes back to you in a report to give you feedback on what we learned. And so what we're really trying to do is prime you to become the influencers at your school. And so basically, if you read that paper, ADEA CCI Changes Here, creating a learning community for the advancement of dental education, that's really the big picture. It's how do we create something called a learning community? And there'll be a paper coming out soon to explain that, and also a webinar at the end of May. And this is what we want to do. What we're seeing in the research is that the more people work together, the more diverse ideas they share, not only the smarter do they come, but they come up with more solutions for issues that they wouldn't come out on their own. And so how do we build a learning community? Well, it starts with the individual. And if you remember tool number 1, the first question was, change begins with the individual. So we need to change ourselves. We have to change the way we think, and what we feel about dental education, and really start from scratch and design the program that we believe we want our students to be educated within. But we can't change practice. We can't change the world for our patients until we change ourselves. And so the whole purpose behind the CCI papers and tools and webinars is for you to read these, to think about them, to reflect on them, and then get in a group of folks and also reflect on this. And that's how we make systemic change. And as the world around you changes at your school, then that starts changing more and more people. And over time, more and more folks are brought into that. So if you look at the diffusion graph that I showed you before, over time, we want to move everyone to the left. And the hope is that in some time from now, every dental school will have an innovation hub, an office of innovation, a place in the school where outside the box ideas are born, where students and faculty can come to with issues they're struggling with, and have a group of folks work together and help them solve those issues, not in fixing them, but actually solving them at a systems level, so that the change is made is something that also could be sustained over time. And so this is the ultimate goal, and we're starting with you. You're our liaisons. You're the first seeds that we're planting. And as we work with you to learn to read papers and watch webinars and to think differently and challenge you to answer questions and challenge you to engage and collaborate, as you change, you'll be changing the school you're in. And so there's a lot more to come. This is very early in the program, but this is really the overall process. And so it looks like this. It's a cycle. It's a cycle that doesn't really have an end. So people say, how many years will this take? Well, the destination isn't a finite one. The destination is a brand new paradigm. The destination is that we will come to the realization that we're always undergoing change. We just don't always want to see it. And that by trying to fight change and to get things so stable in a box, it doesn't really help us. It may take care of our problem in the moment, but it won't take care of our problem in the future. And we'll always be 5 years behind or 10 years behind if we get to a place where we've made some changes, we made some fixes, and we think we're at that destination. The destination is really a mental destination. It's a cultural destination, which is the idea that there's so much information in the world now, no one can know all of it. And that we're so interrelated and interconnected that every couple of months or years, there'll be new processes and new ways to do things. And we want to be able to flourish in that environment. And we want to enjoy that environment. And we don't want to really hide in the sand away from that environment. And a lot of the health professions do that already. I mean, most humans do, but we do in particular because we work with facts and we work with quantitative data. But as we're seeing, the world has changed. The way we get data changes, the way we analyze data changes, and the way we behave needs to change. And so if you look at this model, On top says Vision for Systemic Change. That is the vision that we put together in the Changes Here paper. And if you move to the right, that's where we are. We're in the learn, unlearn phase. And so ADEA is going to send to you a lot of new information, papers, webinars, resources, as I've said before. And it's really for you to learn something new and also to reflect and unlearn. What are the ideas we have that we hold dear that maybe we have no evidence to or aren't very true anymore or don't hold true anymore? And so it's really a time of challenge to be open-minded, to learn and to unlearn. And to do that, you need to be in a supportive community, which you'll see on the right. And that is the CCI Liaisons learning community. It's the work team that you put together at your school that we hope over time will get different schools actually working together and eventually create a national network. And so as you learn and unlearn, there'll be a point where your group is going to say, you know, the topic of social determinants of health really makes sense to us. We want to have social determinants of health to be a part of our intake when we have new patients. So we want a project. We're going to have one of our clinics and have 10 students ask social determinants of health questions to patients over 3 months, and then we're going to study the outcomes of that. So that would be your plan, and ADEA would be here to support you with that plan. And then you take your action, and based on that action, you would reflect upon what did you learn? Did this work? Is this something we want to bring into our program or not? What do we need to change to improve it? And the cycle goes around and round. And as new ideas come out that work, we will publish the work that you've done or share the work you've done through webinars. And from there, you'll be impacting other programs to a point where we actually see a paradigm shift in dental education. And so right now we're at that very, very simple level, and it may take some time to get every school on board, but we're willing to work with schools at different levels. And so right now we're looking at the 70 schools as, are there groups who are already ahead of the curve, and what do they need? Are there schools in the middle? What do they need? And the schools at the end, and what do they need? And so we're really thinking now, do we need 3 different programs, support systems for those 3 different groups? And that's something that we're working on here at ADEA. So there were 3 things that we learned in the literature about learning communities, and all 3 of these resonated very loudly at the meeting last year. And that was that faculty have said, when do we have the time to do this? Does our dean know about this, and will our dean support us in doing this? And do we have the skills to do this? And what are those skills? And so those 3 things are extremely important. And I want to talk to you today about how ADEA can help support you on some of these. Time is the most difficult one for ADEA to support you on because we can't really create time. We can't demand that you're released from your schedule, but we hope that you can find an hour a month for a team to come together and to talk about the resources that we put out. We can recommend that you talk to your dean and say, you know, can we find some time, or talk to your supervisors? But time is something you're going to have to find from yourself. It's volunteer time or work time, but time is the first step that your team needs to take. If you can find that time, if you find this is important enough to do, and you can find the time to work on the tools and to meet as a team once a month, ADEA is here to give you that institutional support. And so those 12 schools that we just listed, we've reached out to them, and we will be having 1-hour conference calls at all 12 of those schools over the next month. And we'll be talking about tool number 1 and finding out from those schools, what do you need next? Where do you want to go next? Where are you? What do you don't understand about the program? What can we help you understand? And how can ADEA support your program moving forward? So we're taking that next step to start working one-on-one with the schools that complete that tool. So as you complete that tool, ADEA will meet with you and then help you move to that next step. The last part we heard are competencies, that people feel they have leadership skills, but they're not sure how to do innovation leadership. And what does that mean? And so because of that, we've really designed a brand new program for us this summer. The ADEA CCI program will be on June 5th through 7th in Baltimore, Maryland, and it's called The Art of Innovative Thinking. We've joined forces with a group called the the Art of Science Learning, and they are a group that believe that art is a mechanism for helping science-minded people break through their science ways of thinking and actually think more innovatively. In other words, folks in the science really do focus on facts, and sometimes they have a difficult time looking outside the box that has been so reliable for them. And so this group is going to use art as a way to kind of free you from that thinking, give you new tools to take back home, and find new approaches to problems that maybe you're having a hard time solving. And those are approaches that we want to use to solve big time problems like student debt or faculty shortages or new technologies in dental education. We believe we can solve these, but we believe we can solve them when we work together in a learning community, and we're trained to be able to do that. So this year's meeting is going to be really out of the world, out of your world, I think. It'll be like something you've never experienced before. It's going to be a 3-day immersion program. There are little to no PowerPoints. It's all experiential, and you're going to be in the good hands of these experts from MIT. And so we're using Leonardo da Vinci to promote the program, who, similar to us, was a scientist, a doctor, and an artist. And so Da Vinci says to develop a complete mind, which is what we want if we want to be in person-centered care. You have to study the science of art, study the art of science, learn how to see, and I think what we mean is to see differently, and to realize that everything connects to everything else. And I think that really underscores what we've been talking about when we began this program 9 months ago. And so registration is already open, so I hope you'll go there and register as soon as you can. We expect a really strong demand for this program. And this is their website, and you can go to the Art of Science Learning and see that they have evidence that their programs really do change the way you think, and they are pretty amazing. And just to share some stuff with you, the program will be broken into 4 half-day seminars, workshops actually: personal leadership mastery, leading change, rehearsing ideas, and high performance teamwork. And you'll be working with people who can draw and illustrate. You'll be building collages. You'll be working with a graphic illustrator. You'll be working with a sculptor. And then there'll be a Bedford string quartet who will perform for you, and you'll be working with them. And through them, they will teach you how to be a high performing team. And so I promise you this will be a really fun experience, and I'm excited about it, and I hope it's something you will participate in. And so that's really all I have to share with you today. First, a thank you to show you we've made significant progress, to kind of reconfirm with you what our mission is and what's expected of our liaisons, to show you how early we are in this program, yet we've done so much in such a short amount of time, and to get you excited about the summer meeting, and to show you in that summer meeting that we hear you. We know the skills that we'd really like to learn, and we hope that this meeting will give you exactly what you need to take your team to the next level. And so if you have any questions for me, I think you could just talk right into your mic, or you could type them in that box. And if you have no questions right now, or you're a little shy, here's my email. Please send me any questions that you have, and we'll leave it at that.